We're good? Okay. All right. Hold on, participants. Well, hello, participants. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Margie Cartwright. I'm the Executive Director of Career Services and Admissions for the school, and I'm going to do just a couple of brief remarks to kick off our program today. First of all, I'd like to introduce the folks who are going to be speaking. Our main presenter is Dr. Sue Griffey. Sue holds both an MPH and a DrPH from Tulane. She had a 30-year public health practice career working in international settings and in domestic settings on global health, particular emphasis on program performance and evaluation, monitoring, informatics, applied research, training, and program development. And over the course of her career, assumed significant management and leadership responsibilities in the organization she was associated with. For the last 10 years, she's focused her professional efforts on mentoring public health professionals, both emerging, mid-career, and late career. Tulane has benefited, and my office has benefited, and many of your peers have benefited from her establishment of the short-term mentoring program, which connected alumni with each other and also alumni with students to share their experiences and expertise. She's also worked and mentored students and employees from many other schools and organizations, sometimes through their own programs, but in recent years, particularly through her development of her significant catalog of Sue Mentors, articles, blog posts, webcasts, presentations, resource materials, and in-person mentoring events. She has long managed her mentoring activities remotely, so she is a virtual work from a distance pro, and she is always looking for new technology, fun technology, and way for technologies to help people work smarter and faster. Our other speaker today is going to be Gergen, who you know, she's our Assistant Director for Career Services. She's rounding out her 4th year at the School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine. In addition to traditional career advising, she's trained in and teaches in design thinking as applied to professional development and exploration. This year, she's being recognized for the 2nd time by the Graduate Student Government Association for her excellent work serving students. And she has herself, like all of us, recently made the transition to working online, moving her responsibilities online, both personal as well as the supervision of our career staff and the management of our career studio, which we've taken virtual. So a couple of thoughts about today's program. We had been planning this program for a long time with Sue. We've worked with Sue a long time, and as you could probably tell from the chatter at the beginning, we're really excited about this program. We've been talking about this topic for a long time because graduation is a big milestone. It's a significant event in your life. There's a lot to do, a lot of big picture things to do, a lot of small picture things to do. And while you always have access to career services as an alumnus, we know that as you graduate and move on, we sometimes are less in touch with you. So we wanted to talk about some of these topics about transition today. And you know that even if you don't remember everything, we're a resource around this time in your life, and you're always welcome to come back to us for advising. For those of you on the eve of graduation, lots of practical tips for you today. For those of you who might be a semester or 2 away, congratulations on getting an early start. It's always good to plan ahead. And you're going to go into the summer, you're going to have an upcoming transition. I think you're going to find some practical advice for the immediate future as well as the long-term future. Even though we had this program planned, what we have done is try to adjust it to address the absolutely unprecedented circumstances into which you are graduating. When we have been thinking about the program and trying to put ourselves in your shoes, there are a few things that we've been focused on. First of all, foremost, this is a huge milestone for you, and we all want you to know that we share your disappointment at not being able to mark it through the traditions and celebrations that we were all expecting and looking forward to. So our disappointment is a fraction of yours, but we want you to know that we really do share the disappointment, but we're not doing this physically together in the ways we all looked forward to. We're also thinking about, as we as professionals are working from home and adjusting to more fluid schedules and joking about not knowing what day of the week it is, we're thinking about the fact that you're going through the same thing in your classes as well. And that on a bigger scale, the delineation between school and post-school professional life may feel less clear to you. So we want to talk about that. We're thinking about how many of you are going to join new teams or join teams you may have been familiar with, or organizations you may know to some degree, in a virtual environment, and getting oriented to the job and your role and new colleagues is going to be different for you as a cohort than it was for any of us coming out of school. And we're also thinking about the state of the job market that you're graduating into. Your public health skills and your public health passion has never been more needed by your fellow citizens, but the economy is taking a hit from what is going on, and there will no doubt be disruptions in the job market broadly. Some of you may find work more quickly because of what is going on. Some of you will face longer job searches. So we say that not to give you anxiety, but because we think you're probably thinking about this already. We want you to be prepared for the market. We know that the job search often involves a lot of anxiety because the job search has a lot of things you can't control. And so we always want to talk about what are the things you can control, what can you do affirmatively to make your search as easy and efficient as possible. So we're here today to try and give you as many of those tools as we can. And then lastly, and I'm going to turn it over to Catherine, we want you to know that you're not in the job search alone. Our job in career services is to advocate for you and develop opportunities for you. So that includes not just educational programs like today, but trying to make sure that we get you to the front of the line with recruiters and job opportunities. So as you look in Handshake, look for those jobs that are marked with SPHTM. That means that there is a relationship behind that job, that someone came to us or we went to an employer, and that employer is interested in connecting with Tulane talent. And we're working every day to get as many of those into Handshake as we possibly can. So with all that being said, Tulane has trained you to be a data-driven professional. And so I'm going to turn it over to Catherine to give you a bit of an update on some of the resources that we're watching on the state of the job market, and so that you can watch those going forward as well.
Thanks, Margie, and thank you again to everybody who's joined us. So the national association that Margie and Abby and Sue and I follow is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And so one thing that's come about with this pandemic and the economy being as such is that they've surveyed employers and colleges to see what has changed. So while a lot has changed in our world, 64% of the employers that they did survey have told them that they are not revoking any offers at this time. While, you know, day by day things are changing, that is an encouraging data point to look into. And this is over 230 employers that were surveyed. And while this is from last week, this could change by tomorrow when the data comes out every day. But for those of you who are in the job search, I think this should be reassuring. For those of you who are going into an internship search this summer, again, there's still a good percentage. It's 30% of the employers surveyed are still going ahead with their internship programs as planned, while many others are moving to virtual or other type of, you know, shortened time periods or a different time period, or just making their internship program look a little different than they might have expected. So that's from the NAE survey, and I'll put this along with two other resources that we're keeping an eye on in the chat box. One of them is called Candor, and they are monitoring employers who are saying that they're putting hiring freezes on, putting any sort of layoff or furlough program, and then those who are continuing as planned and posting what types of opportunities that they are hiring for. And then the last one is from Handshake, which should be very familiar to you all. So Handshake as an organization is, you know, individually surveying the thousands and thousands of employers that use their platform to promote opportunities to colleges and universities and students like yourselves. And they are getting all the employers that use Handshake to tell them who's still hiring and it's over 500 that have already responded. So I'll share all three of those resources that we're keeping an eye on for yourselves to continue to be data-driven individuals and keeping an eye on this for your own professional development as well. So with that, we will turn it over to Sue, our expert mentor in residence and one of our top favorite alumni from the School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine. And the last thing I'll say is if you have questions, we'll have time at the end, but please pop it into the chat box in the meantime. So I'll turn it over to you, Sue. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. Margie, that was a great intro. In fact, I got to write all that down when we get the recording. No, because you really pulled it all together, and it's really true. Even though it's focused on graduating, so many of these tips are things that the students who are one semester, even 2 semesters in, can start doing and should start doing, because as you'll see, we're going to talk mostly about your professional development. There's 2 things I want to say before we start. Number one, I want to acknowledge that this situation is unlike anything any of us, as old as I am, have ever lived through. You are living with us through an evolving public health case study. The silver lining is it's an amazing opportunity to see public health fast learning, agile learning approaches. So take advantage of that. Think about it as you may be also discouraged about certain things or wondering why you can't walk down to the French Quarter and get something, a beignet or something. The second thing is that we'd hoped to have Emmy Watanabe join us. Emmy was in the original pilot program when we started the mentoring program at the school. She just started a new job, so we don't have her, but we have a recording of me interviewing her that I'll play towards the end when we talk about what's different. And this is a person who's been on the job 1 day, 1 week and 2 days. So you're gonna hear it writ large. Substantiating the things we're talking about. All right, let's get started. So you will get links from Catherine in an email, Catherine and Abby, with these 2 tools that I made. And I have made these because there's 2 parts to the presentation that we'll go into. First is what do you need to do to have an efficient transition to your next step, whether it's graduation, a new job, whatever. And the second thing is, as you go into a new career step, what does that look like for you, and how can you take control of your professional development for that? All right, here you are. You're ready to be a newly minted MPH, or you're going into an internship this summer, you're halfway through your 2-year program. Today's focus is really, what does your professional development mean to you in terms of what can I maximize and how should I put myself out there? So this is probably how you think you look. And I've used this wonderful lady's picture in other webinars because it just, to me, is the joy of a professional who's comfortable in what she does. But guess what? Maybe this is how you see yourself, but it's certainly how we all see you, except maybe Catherine and Abby and Margie, who see you more than your professors. They see you sort of hazy one side of you, and there's a big Tulane brand over your face right now. And that's a comfortable place for you to be. But I'm here to tell you, if you're graduating or even going to an internship this summer, you've got periods of time now, the before and the after, where you have things you need to be thinking about and doing that aren't your academic career, and they aren't just getting through personal life and how do you get your groceries. Not to minimize those are your top 2 jobs in life. All right, so as Margie said, we're going to put the virtual into this as well. First of all, let's talk about tidying up and finishing up. The outreach communication plan is part of this outreach checklist, and it's to recognize that in your professional development, you sometimes have seminal networking opportunities, and this is one of them. We'll be talking more about that. Your news, your big step, whether it's into an internship or graduation, alone is a chance to reach out in an engaged fashion, and I'm going to tell you how to do that and make sure you do it effectively. So Tulane, all the Tulane stuff has a logo in the bottom right corner. If you don't already know how to access Handshake comfortably when you're off of Tulane property, get yourself oriented to it now. I'm sure you're already an expert, but it's something that always concerns me about people that work on the intranets of companies, not just universities. Make sure that you've gotten any shared files, documents that you're allowed to take if you're co-author of a report, or if you have some templates that you want off box or any other shared location that your faculty, staff, or others worked on. And that includes colleagues when you've worked on projects together. And I learned that two things when I was putting this together. Number one, I didn't remember that I had my official transcript from 1993 when I finished my doctorate. But I also learned, and I think it was given to us with our diploma, but I did learn from Margie that you are actually going to have to request it. And in about 2 weeks, so put this on your calendar, you want to make an official request to get your transcript. You may never need it again. I tell people you don't need to have your GPA out there. You may not be applying to grad school, but you always want to have your own official documentation. And I found mine a couple of years ago. Next, before you leave Tulane, and this is really important because I get a lot of mentees who have conflicting information. There's two things you need to decide. Where am I? What's your location going to be? Choose one. And I learned last year from a recruiter, you've got to use your zip code in LinkedIn because that's a way that they find you more easily if they do job searches, not just city and state. And second is email. How am I contactable? Email or phone or both? Again, choose one. And here's my one of my PSAs today. Make sure you have a separate email address for your professional look. Don't have one that says EEG loves dogs, which is something close to what my sisters used to be, at gmail.com. And you can decide if you want to keep your tulane.edu, but again, do it knowingly and make sure you're deliberate. And so what's on your CV and resume should be the same as in LinkedIn, and cover letters, et cetera, et cetera. And update all of your professional documents and your sites with your expected location change after graduation as soon as you can, because those things are important, especially in a virtual world. All right, time for a change. I'm sure you've all been doing this already, where you have expected 5/20 if you're graduating soon. The new information I want to stress with you is once you've graduated, no one cares about the month. And no one cares when you started school. I sometimes I started in 2013, I finished in 2017. Just get it done. You graduated in 2020, period. Okay, you may not be able to tell because I haven't put the pictures up side by side for the evidence, but you're getting less hazy. Here you are, the Tulane badge is gone. So now we're moving on to the whole outreach plan. And this outreach plan is supported by the webinar in the bottom right corner. You'll get a list of all the webinars that I co-sponsored with Tulane Alumni Career Services in the last couple of years on effective networking. This is where you're going to get a lot of bang for the buck. Oops, there we go. Oh, sorry. I forgot. Oh, I forgot there. Technology that I didn't, sorry, I have to figure out how to get back to my screen. I forgot I put a hyperlink in there. Okay, so now there are 3 parts to the communications, the outreach communications plan. Top left, contacts. Who are you gonna send this to or engage with? Bottom middle, messaging, that's your what. Top right, this is when. There's a timing and an order to this. And this whole plan, these parts of the plan take time to do. So I'd advise you to start doing it now. And those who aren't graduating, this is what Margie said. You're going to be able to take tips from here and start doing some of this. Okay. This is how I work with mentees to think about an outreach plan and their contacts. There's 3 circles, and the innermost circle, the green one, is people that are your family and friends, but also colleague friends. Key supports, maybe mentors, professors from undergrad who wrote you recommendations, people that you want to reach out and thank or recognize in some fashion how instrumental they've been in you getting from this step to the next. That's direct focused messaging. Direct general messaging are the colleagues you've worked with. These are people who will know your name if you send them an email. They're probably in your address list already, either on your phone or hopefully in an email program, not just in your phone. So my PSA is make sure your phone isn't the only place for your contacts. Excuse me. And that's a direct general message, and we'll talk about each of these in a minute. And then finally, social media. So make sure that if you're going to a new job and you can't announce it yet, your family or friends don't put on Facebook, isn't it great that Sue's moving to Paris to go work at the Louvre? Or where, yeah, public health at the Louvre, I could do that. All right, there is a complete process for this in the plan that I showed you the thumbnail of the cover for that you'll get. But the two key steps are updating your contacts list, because you'd be surprised how many conflicts you have, like, oh, I forgot to put so-and-so's new address in here, or email address. And more importantly, you need to categorize who's in each circle. Define who's in circle 1, 2, and 3, green, yellowish, orange, and blue. All right. We're moving on now to messaging. I'm trying to keep icons in the bottom right corner so you can follow the steps. I often say, write once, use often, disseminate everywhere. And that's going to be the byword that you're going to follow with this. You're going to write a general message that you're going to tailor, you can use often, and then even disseminate it electronically. So here's what you saw with the circles in now their level of effort. So it takes a lot of effort generally to write the direct focus messages, but these are the people that get your attention first. You want to make sure, Margie, I had a great time working with you, and you went above and beyond when you helped me by doing that special contact, whatever it is. The direct tailored message, probably you can, not probably, you will start with a general message template, but you will then adapt that to each person's situation. So here's what I mean about a situation. Here are people, and I have a group of people I have worked with overseas that I haven't heard from them in 2 or 3 years. Perfect chance to get in touch. And I write to each person and I say, Dear Marcia, I know it's been a while since we've been in touch when we left Somalia together. Just wanted you to have this update, and you'll see I've written 3 sample scripts, and if I have more time in the next few days, I'll add a couple more variants into that same document because the link won't change for it. So you use a general message, write once, use often, you use it in tailoring it, but it doesn't have quite the sense of the recognition and thanks that the first square does. So still a lot of effort, but not as much as the first box. And then when you get all those done, the social media is easy. It's 1 or 2 announcements, maybe a picture, but make sure you start with LinkedIn. You don't want your network to hear about it on Instagram first before LinkedIn. So always start with LinkedIn. That's why it's at the top. Okay. Third part of the plan is timing and order, and there is timing and order to this. You can choose to do it pencil, pen, and paper, or you can choose to do it on your phone or on an app. Interestingly enough, the only free photo I could find of an app had a handwritten list on it, but nevertheless, make a list, figure out the timing, understand what you're doing, and then your next step, recommended by Margie, Catherine, and me, and if that's not enough for a reason to do it, hopefully we'll be on your shoulders saying, put it on your calendar. So here's what your calendar would look like from my point of view. If you were going to then send out the individual messages, that's group 1. They should go out a couple days before the event or the day of the event if it's something you can't announce. But for graduation, you're in graduation week. Couple days before graduation, I'm excited about graduating, wanted to let you know, whatever. Wait a day to send out the tailored messages, just because you want to make sure that the people who get recognized feel special, and some of them know each other, and you'd be surprised how that would be the day someone who got her tailored message before the individual message went out is saying, oh, I heard from Sue and she said, she said she's got a new job. And it's like, oh, I didn't get mine because they had it in their spam filter or whatever. Graduation comes. I want to acknowledge that your graduation acknowledgement by the school, I understand, is under preparation right now. And I know there'll be some way to mark it. I will make this free offer to you. If you have no one to celebrate with, just hit me up by email and we'll have a quick little celebration. I'll raise a glass from Columbia, Maryland with you on Zoom. I'm happy to do that because I am all about making sure that you all have as great public health careers as I've had, and coming out of Tulane, so many benefits I had. And then wait a day to announce it on LinkedIn if it's graduation or a new job, just so you can say, it's really great. If you happen to have your diploma, fine. Just so you know, when I graduated in '83 with my MPH, our graduation was everybody putting on the same gown one at a time, standing with Dean Banta and whoever's department we were graduating with and having a picture taken. And I forgot to put that in here, but that was our graduation ceremony. And I was in the wilds of the desert of Niger by the time graduation in May came around, which I wasn't able to attend, obviously. All right, you're ready to start doing this now, and this will be the easy part. But there's other components than what we were just talking about with the direct messaging. First of all, start ramping up your LinkedIn connections. Once you've finished classes with professors, the faculty that I know, Jane Bertrand, Mark Van Landingham, connect with people, not every single professor you took classes with, but people that taught you meaningful things that you want to remember and be connected to. Obviously, if you're not connected to, excuse me, Margie, Catherine, and Abby now, this is the time to do it. I won't check. And don't forget to connect with me. I love to get connections. Other opportunities, internship, practica, residency, someplace that you've been during your school where you functioned as a public health student, but a professional graduate student. They love to connect with people that they thought were good workers and that they enjoyed connecting with. And I have to thank Catherine for enlarging my view on the bottom right of the screen. I was thinking connect with students that your classmates that you were doing study group with, and maybe you're not good friends with. And Catherine said, don't forget, Sue, your public health classmates become your public health peers and colleagues as you get out of here. So that's a very valuable thing. Guest lecturers, other mentors, everybody you can. Have a reason, and we'll talk about that. Well, there's more in the handout that you'll get that shows you actually how to write a useful message on LinkedIn so that you're not just sending what I call a cold call email there. Tulane, again, if you haven't already connected to these resources, which are open to you as students, get on them now. Tulane Connect is great. The Alum Association, Dr. Betsy Gleckler is great about posting jobs, a lot of jobs. And now it's time to send out all your messages. All you have to do, because you'll see this in the process document, is open up the Word document where you've written all those emails already and cut and paste them and send them out on the days you need to send them out. I know this isn't what your graduation is going to look like, but hopefully you'll have a mental transition. And as I said, if you want, I'm available on the 16th to have a little graduation ceremony out of I'll show you all my degrees back here. We can celebrate together, but take a minute to celebrate, more than a New Orleans minute, probably a New Orleans year would be fun. And then let's talk about what it means to move into your new role and your new career path. Notice I didn't say job. There's two parts to what we're going to talk about. The first is you, and that's you and your new role. And the second is the work environment. You have a phase that you're going through now that you need to be aware of consciously. I learned about this many decades ago in nursing, when it started out, as far as I can tell, in the nurse practitioner world. But we all go through role realignment. This is a process where you take on the behaviors, the attitudes, the confidence, and the mental shift that says, I'm a public health professional now. And hopefully you notice that you're now not hazy anymore. This is you. You've graduated. Congratulations. I'm thrilled to have someone enjoying public health as much as I do. And you all have people that you live with who, or your family, who now know what public health means. All right, the second part of it is your career path. Some of you still may be in job search mode. Others may be about to start a job or an internship. If you're in job search mode, again, don't get discouraged. But beyond Handshake and beyond what Margie and Catherine and Abby can do for you, the Tulane Alumni Career Services group, a small group but very helpful, have all these resources, including, so in the, on the left and the middle on the bottom, you will see that there's a lot you can have access to as an alum. Two things in particular: the Vault, which is very career oriented, has a lot of jobs and job information, and the Strong Interest Inventory, which will also help you. So don't forget about those. On the top right is the Go to Stage webinar channel that Tulane Career Services runs. And I co-sponsored many of these webinars with them, but being on this channel, you have to sign in for it, but being on this channel gives you access to everything that they've ever recorded, done, different resources, as you can see from the screenshot that I did. So they're there to help, and Nicole Bush and Sarah Basinger and others are great. All right, job, you've landed somewhere. There's a process called onboarding. I don't love the title, but that's okay. It's employer-based, and it's what happens when a new person comes in to the organization, to the employment. And so let's take a step back and forget that we were not able to go out the door this morning to do what we needed to do normally in life. You would be working probably in public health buildings, an office building, maybe a clinic. If you're lucky, this is a clinic on a beach in Hawaii, I think. Somewhere lots of fun. And your first day, you'd have your HR orientation, you'd meet your boss and the team. The first week, you'd start meeting other people. You'd be able to get out, do what I call see and be seen, walk around, go to the kitchen, introduce yourself at the elevator. What I have found, and I only found this one, is that very few people post what their companies do for orientation, but Glassdoor at least had a hiring manager's checklist, and it stops at day one. I was surprised, but I know that most of the time, new employee activities don't even last a week. Usually it's a couple days, and then by then you're supposed to make your own way. So I'm here to tell you that you're going to be getting also an employee checklist to start working with. First of all, though, make sure if you are going to have a job that you have time ahead of time with the HR person and the hiring manager to get settled in on when your start date is, what you need to do. And I forgot to mention at the beginning, when we do have a recorded section with Emmy, who's going to talk about what it was like for her to go on. Most companies that you're going to join have been able to transition to virtual work. And JSI, where she's working, is a global health organization. But what they're finding is the things that they need to tailor for employees. So you will see those things. You will meet with people, HR, your boss. You will maybe have team, some people are doing team lunches that are just get together kind of lunches rather than a team meeting. So there will be some social events, but you still will need to take control of your professional development and make sure you're getting your needs met. And moving to that part of the discussion, your professional onboarding. I found these 5 questions last year, and I've recategorized them into the things that I think as a new employee you need to think about immediately, medium term, and then medium to long term. And they're going to guide some of what I'm going through with you now. So when you get to this part of your role development, you'll find these tools, the checklist and the whole process outlined in the tool that I have available for you. what's going to be different now in the virtual world? Well, immediately we know you're not going into the office. And so here's Emmy, Sue, Margie, and Catherine a week and a half ago. I know you didn't know, Margie, that it was just an ad hoc meeting. Here we are planning this. You're all going to be doing this. The good news is that even though you're coming into an existing team who's all worked together, they're still figuring this out. This could be very much a leveling time because no one can walk down the hall and talk to their best friend just when they get really frustrated with their boss. I mean, they still can do it, but it's not going to be something that's easy and in their own routine. And they will look for ways, because most employers and hiring managers really want their employees to succeed. They'll look for ways to make it easy for you. So rather than me keep talking, I need just to get to this. This is from the same picture, but Emmy and I talked on Monday night. Are you hearing anything? Of course, it's not working now. Sorry, let's see if we can get this working.
Hi, Abby. How are you? I'm doing well. How are you, Sue? Great. I'm really happy that you were able to make some time. I know you've got a busy schedule just starting your job, so this is great for you to be able to share your experience with Tulane and anybody else who watches the webinar we're doing.
Sorry, I may be buffering.
So you're a week and 2 days into your new job, and you've been at it virtually as well as being located in Tennessee. So why don't you tell us how it's going?
Yeah, I just started as a technical analyst in the Center of Health Logistics at John Snow Inc., also known as JSI, and yeah, it's been going well. Last week, I had a mix of orientation, team meetings, and learning more about supply chain and family planning products, and so that's been exciting. And I mean, I guess orientation included a lot of, you know, HR, IT, you know, putting in your timesheet kind of stuff, and then I'm excited to learn more about the projects and data my team are working on, and lucky to have a nice and friendly team. So I'm looking forward to working with them moving forward.
That's great. Why don't you talk about the onboarding process and how it was to come into an organization that's now all virtual, as well as you know, any of the thoughts you have around what it was like before and then getting into the, well, back to a work situation, even though it's all virtual.
Yeah, sure. So I guess went while, so before I was a CDC fellow, and we didn't have any benefits through the fellowship, so I didn't really have the I guess the experience beforehand of, you know, selecting, you know, the health insurance plan you want or life insurance plan you want, you know, having information about the 401k and all that stuff. And so I think it was really great to have a solid network that I could reach out to for onboarding. You know, I have, you know, some Tulane alum mentors, and I have some friends that are, you know, already working in a private industry, and you know, getting perspectives from people that already have experience with onboarding, virtually or not, has been really helpful, especially during the offer negotiation process. You know, it was really great to bounce ideas off of my friends and mentors, you know, negotiating a higher salary, alternatives to a salary increase in the beginning, perspectives on the offer. And then, you know, that's like kind of before the, you know, starting the job. But then, you know, when you start the job before and during the orientation process, you know, you're filling out the paperwork, and, you know, there's all this lingo that you're not as familiar with. insurance plans and PPOs and HMOs and stuff like that, and pre-tax dollars. And so I think it's nice to be able to get some clarification on stuff like that for people or have already gone through that process. And then lastly, I think not being afraid to ask questions like to HR or your supervisor before or during orientation, because I think online it's I think in person, you would just maybe stop by the HR office, but since virtually that's not possible, with virtual work that's not possible, and so I think it's important to continue to communicate with HR. And I kind of felt like, I feel like I'm sending them a million questions, but I think it feels like that even more because it's another email or I forgot to ask this. And so not being afraid to reach out, or if you have questions for your supervisor, just being confident and reaching out to them, and taking initiative too, because I think there is orientation and everything, but I needed an IT follow-up and they never followed up, so then I was like, hey, I need to reschedule, and that never happened, so I just emailed the help desk and made an appointment with them. So kind of taking initiative in that way as well, even in the beginning.
Right, and we were talking earlier about the fact that it is a learning for all of these people. JSI and a lot of other organizations have people overseas in different time zones, people who do work virtually, but now they've had to move everything to a virtual setting. So in your onboarding, you did have some formal orientations, you just referred to those. You met with your boss before, or your supervisor before and during, but maybe you could tell us, how's it been this first week and a half settling into the job with a team that's already been working together on a very interesting project area, and also how's it been to come back into the work world, because you haven't been working for a while, so you haven't necessarily been sitting at your desk all day long, I assume, while you were in Tennessee, before you got this job. So why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So, I think that it's been interesting to start a job remotely, because I can't see what the office looks like, or meet my colleagues in person, or run into people in the hallway or whatever. So were you kind of referring to working remotely?
Yeah, well, both, how have you been able to accommodate a home office and having to, basically, I think you said something like, I have to make sure as soon as I get up and I'm ready to go for the day that I can, I'm always going to be on camera, but also what's it been like in terms of both what you do in your home office, but also how it's been working with your team virtually?
I think it's been going well. I think that they've been scheduling things on my calendar, and so I think that's I just meet with them whenever they put the meeting on my calendar, and I've just been having meetings with them, and then I guess.
And didn't they have a team luncheon late last week and introduced you also to people, so you began to put faces and names together? Not that I'm feeding you the words you've told me before, but
yeah, I mean, I guess the center has monthly lunches, and so they introduced me at their weekly lunches right now. So. They introduced me at their weekly lunch, and I also recently got an email about happy hour, so I think they're trying to be proactive about that. I think that the team and the center in general have been really proactive about that. And I think, you know, my team has, one of my team members has been really proactive about sending me listservs that I should be on, and also, like, I guess if, you know, your team members aren't as proactive, you could ask what listservs you should, you know, be put on or would be beneficial to receive information from them. So stuff like that, I think. And yeah, in terms of remote work, I guess creating a comfortable workspace from home, and like you mentioned earlier, like getting out of your pajamas and wearing some normal clothes. And definitely for the virtual work, I do assume that I'm going to be on a video call, just so that I'm not caught off guard in the case that the other person assumes it's going to be, you know, like maybe I thought it was going to be just a call, and they thought it was going to be a video call or something of that sort. So being prepared for stuff like that is also really important.
Yeah, do you find yourself exhausted? My colleagues and friends that I talked to last week said, like, now they're having more meetings than ever because everybody's on Zoom all the time together. Is that happening to you?
Yeah, it is a little bit tiring, I think. But it's also nice to see their faces on, you know, on the computer, because I think it would be a very different situation if it was kind of like a phone call. You can't see their faces or reactions. So it's a little bit of both. It is a little tiring. I think just meetings in general are kind of tiring, but yeah, I think that the video calls can be tiring, but also I find it's beneficial as well.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you speaking with us. Any last words or comments you have? Maybe you want to talk about how it's been to onboard, get into a new job, and everything else you're dealing with.
Yeah, so in addition to virtually onboarding and starting a new job, we got hit by a tornado on Sunday night, Monday morning. So I'm currently without power and internet in my house. So that's been interesting. I think that it's definitely, you know, made me think about how much I need, obviously, internet and electricity for working remotely, but also how dependent we are on it. And so, yeah, definitely taking, you know, I guess that into consideration, you know, since that's such a major part of working remotely. You know, you just never know what happens, so be prepared for that. And I've been lucky that my parents' work has electricity and internet right now, so I've been coming here for that, so I can continue working. But yeah, in the case you don't have a second location, especially during this virus, I think it's something that you should definitely highly consider, since it's so remote work so dependent on it.
Great. Well, you've made some great points. I appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time. And
so that's Emmy. You heard it from the person who's going through it, and then as of last night, she still didn't have power. That's why we're using the recording, but she's riding with it. All right, so we were in the virtual phase, and hopefully virtual is temporary. So if you're going back to work, just a couple quick things. You need a new orientation. You don't know the building, you don't know your office, you need an ID badge to get in, whatever. They will arrange it for you, but you also need to meet people in person, people whose heads you know, but who maybe you have no idea how tall they are. Your team will forget, because they know you so well from working, that you don't know certain things about the office. And one thing that you have to learn that you can't learn virtually very easily is what's the office culture? Who are the informal leaders and influencers? You'll see a lot more once you're there. Again, my pro tip is see and be seen. Walk around, and instead of phoning or sending an email, walk down the hall and talk to someone. All right, we ran long, but I wanted you to hear everything Emmy had to share, including her tornado. I know, on top of everything. I'm going to leave my summary points up and turn it over to Catherine, because you will have access to all these things by link. So Catherine, if you don't mind closing out the webinar.
Yes, thank you so much, Sue. This was such a fantastic, some of the things, reminders and refreshers, but also all this great information to keep in mind as motorcycle passes by. As we all are living in this virtual world right now, and just remembering that you can still network and still promote these connections and making new connections despite everything that's happening. And to remember that you'll have an onboarding process, but that you are still in charge of your own professional development and your own onboarding process. And so things like Emmy was speaking to about making sure that you do take the initiative. And that goes for if you were starting a job or just whatever your next step is after graduation or after this month, to remind yourself that you are your own best advocate. And especially now when this is our point of communication, that, reaching out to someone and making sure that they know your name and your face is even more important. So thank you again for everybody who attended. To Sue and Margie and Abby for helping us all put this together. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Sue has all of her many platforms for which you can connect with her there. And you will get resources aplenty sent to you via email today. And if there aren't any other questions, we'll end it up here. And you can always reach out to connect, and I'll drop the few links that I mentioned at the beginning in the chat box as well, that you can save if you want to look at some of those survey results about hiring. So any final questions or anything else, you're welcome to just speak it too if you want to unmute yourself. All right. Well, Sue, thank you so much. We wish we were hugging you in person. I can't wait to hug you again in New Orleans one day soon. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Everyone, take care.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.